Hey, we are back with episode number 24 of the Viral Nation. In today's show, we are going to talk about Bobby Hewitt and the Team Triumph that'll be coming out in 2024. They had a big press release this week. I got a chance to talk to somebody that actually has seen the bike. Okay, fair enough, secondhand who's seen the bike, but we'll talk a little bit about that. So stay tuned to the Viral Nation.
Wake up at 5 a.m. Gotta be at the track at 10. It's time to ride. All of this anticipation to ride in the Viral Nation.
Hey, so let me talk about, first, before we get started, let's talk about subscriptions. So if you guys could subscribe to this video, we'd really appreciate it. If you're seeing this on Facebook or on Instagram, head over to our YouTube channel, click subscription, and then drop us a line below. Let us know what you want to know about. We're not just going to talk about viral goggles, but we are going to talk about them. But we aren't going to talk just about them, but we are going to talk about viral riders. Are you a viral rider? Drop us a line below. Ask us some questions, get us some images, and we might even feature you in the next episode of the Viral Nation. We are working on a bunch of stuff in the future podcasts or video glogs or whatever they call this thing, video logs or whatever you call this, that we're doing. So make sure that you hit subscribe and you drop us a comment down below, and we will get back to you and try to talk to you as much as we can. And then hopefully you might be featured on the next show. So coming up, let's talk a little bit about Bobby Hewitt and the Team Triumph. Triumph is, in my recollection, I don't remember a brand that started a motorcycle or a dirt bike in this way. I've been reading a lot of comments online, and people are funny, right? I read a comment the other day that said, that's a scam because no manufacturer is going to start talking about something and then not show us the product, right? They were really clear that they only have one opportunity for a first impression, and they're building the anticipation. First thing they've done is they went out and they hired Ricky Carmichael, which, whether you love Ricky or don't love Ricky, the guy is a great tester. He's been around the industry. He is one of the greatest motocross and supercross riders to ever throw his leg over a motorcycle. And I can tell you that having him helping develop the bike is going to be a huge benefit. Then they teamed that with bringing on Dave Arnold. And we're going to talk about each of these guys in just a little bit. I'm not going to talk about Carmichael. I think most of us know Carmichael pretty well. But we are going to talk about Dave Arnold, Bobby Hewitt. We're going to talk about Scuba real quick. And then we're going to talk about Dudley. And I know I've talked to some people that know Dudley and kind of how he ended up there. So we're going to talk about that. But this is the first time that I can remember, other than the electric bikes, and I don't want to talk too much about the electric bikes. Matter of fact, I'm gonna do an entire Viral Nation or do a Viral Nation on electric bikes here in the very short future. But for today, we're gonna, I don't think I remember a manufacturer. I wasn't old enough to see when the manufacturers were bringing out new bikes, when Honda hit the market, when Yamaha hit the market, and even with KTM. KTM is an old brand, and you might think, well, wait a minute, Scott, what about Gas and Husqvarna? Well, both of those were brands. They were brands that were already being produced, that were bought by KTM, retooled, and then brought back to market in basically a KTM and then a KTM Light, and then you got a Husqvarna Light, which is the Gas. Awesome marketing, great job for KTM. They're I don't know if they're really pulling a lot of guys off of the Japanese bikes. They might be, and putting them on gases or putting them on Husqvarnas, but it really did build the brand and really has helped KTM grow their brand and probably their profitability over the last quite a few years. But they're not a brand new manufacturer coming to market. Triumph has been around a long time. They've got racing chops in a lot of different areas, but they don't have a motocross specific bike. Europe has Beta, and you've got a bunch of other bikes that we don't, Fantic and that kind of stuff that we don't see here in the United States. But we really haven't had a brand come and really, especially in the way that they want to do it, which is, I mean, I guarantee when it shows up, big rig, it's going to have all of the bells and whistles that go with that big rig. The riders, we're going to see some riders. I have a thought in my head, and I'm going to share it before the end of this episode. But I have a thought in my head of who they might have next year, and it might surprise you, might not. You might actually be thinking the same thing I am. But let's talk about Bobby Hewitt, and let me bring up Bobby here really quick. Let me see here. Main monitor. Nope, not that one. We're not going to do that one. Right monitor. There we go. And we're going to go over here, and we are going to go to breaking news, and we're going to start with Bobby Hewitt. So as you drop down, you got Bobby Hewitt. And so for those that know the industry, Bobby has been around for a long time. He ran the Husqvarna Rockstar team. It was originally the Suzuki team, and then transitioned to the Husqvarna team when KTM acquired them. It was a smart move on his part. Gave him some marketing dollars. He had Rockstar Energy with him, and he really has done a fabulous job. Unfortunately, that tenure with them came to an end, even though that was his team. And if you listen to any of his interviews, Swap Moto has got some good interviews. MXA's got some good stuff. They had a press conference a couple days ago, and Bobby is going to be taking over and basically the dealer principal or the team principal, which is going to be running the team. You got Scuba Steve that's going to be on ball. That's Steve Westfall. He's been around a long time as well. He's been a guy that has come from the industry, run teams, been part with Bobby for a while. And then you got Dave Arnold, and Dave Arnold's very interesting. And let's go over here to he's obviously he was inducted into the Hall of Fame for the Motorcycle Hall of Fame. But when you go back to his history in 1974, he began working for Honda right at the beginning of motocross. So I mean, he's been around since almost the inception of the motocross world, and he worked with a list of riders, including David Bailey and Ricky Johnson, Ron Lachine, Jean-Michel Bale, Jeff Stanton McGrath. And then in 95, when he left and went to kind of retired, he kind of started bouncing around a little bit. But, he had a little bit of time with Factory Connection, KTM, Husqvarna. He was with Alta, the electric bike company, for a little bit, KYB. And having him back in the industry or not in the industry, but running a team, that is nothing more than a windfall of knowledge and expertise for Triumph. I mean, they really have. And then you pair that with Dudley Croman, and I was talking to a buddy of mine that works for Husky right now. He knows Dudley. And his words were exactly, the dude is a magician when it comes to motors. The guy is just almost a savant. And so to have his background and his understanding of powertrains and how to make power and all the things that are going to go into a factory motor, because I can tell you from experience, from when we ran the Barn Pros Home Depot Yamaha team, building horsepower seems easy on paper, and it's difficult in practice. And especially when you start coming up against unlimited budgets. Triumph's going to have basically an unlimited budget, right? They're going to throw as much money as it's going to take to get people on board, to get the right riders, to get the right staff, to build the right team, to build the right team, because they're going to want to go out and they're going to want to be competitive right out of the box. They're not going to want to go out there and be running in 7th, 8th, 10th place. I guarantee you that. They want to be running and racing for championships. Very much like what Gas did with Mosman, right? Mosman came out and has made the Gas look absolutely amazing. The guy has been riding lights out, even though he's had some ups and downs and he's had some crashes. And I don't know if you saw that he broke his neck at the last round of the Outdoor Nationals, or second last round, and that's why we didn't see him race until now. But the kid has been on fire, and he's made the Gas look good. He's made it look competitive, and I think that's exactly what Triumph's going to want to do as well. Triumph's going to work as hard as they can to build out a bike, not only that is different. Now, I've heard a lot of rumors online. We're going to talk next thing, but saw a lot of rumors online that it's going to be KTM Light again. It's basically a KTM chassis 2016 with a basic KTM motor, and they're just going to throw Triumph graphics on it. Well, I know for a fact that a friend of mine in Florida has talked to somebody that has actually seen the bike when they were over at the ICMA show, which is a world motorcycle show that happened in Italy this year. And there was a few people that were able to actually look at the motorcycle, see the motorcycle. No photos obviously were able to be taken of it, but they actually did show the bike over in ICMA, and it is completely different. It's Triumph's own chassis, it's Triumph's own motor, and it is going to be, I don't know if it's going to be a game changer. I don't think, we're not going to end up with a hover bike, but we're going to end up with something that's going to be very competitive and a very good motorcycle. We're not going to end up with a bike that is going to be something that people are not going to like. I think that's really what you're going to see. And I think what you're going to see too is you're going to see them enter the race world with their new bike, and then you're going to start seeing it roll out to dealers. And I can bet you that it's going to be hard to get one. If you go to a Triumph dealer right now, I bet you there's probably already a waiting list, and no one's even seen the bike. That's just my fair guess. Last on this on this whole Triumph thing too is that I honestly believe that I think, and this is just me, but I think that you might see you might see Roczen be the rider for 2024. Now, 2025. Now, he's getting older. By that point, he may have already wanted to retire. We don't know. But he's going to go to Suzuki this year. Obviously, we talked about that at the last episode. I think he's not going to have I don't think he's not going to have a bad year. I think he's probably going to have a very similar year that he's had, because I think the bike will be very competitive. But I think he might be in a holding pattern to get to the Triumph thing. Now, I could be wrong. At that point, 2 years in motocross is a lifetime, right? So it could be something it might be somebody that that we're not even thinking about right now, right? It could be Mosiman. For all we know, it could be Sexton for that matter. We don't know that. And I know there's all the Husqvarna or all the KTM rumors and all that stuff, and maybe those are all for real. I haven't really followed that whole Sexton thing up too much, but for all we know, it might be somebody like Sexton. It might be someone like a Lawrence or a Hunter Lawrence, as he tries to break away from his brother. It might be Jet Lawrence, right? We don't know who's going to be there in 2 years, but I guarantee you they're going to spend, if they're hiring now, and they started 2 years ago with Carmichael, I guarantee you they're talking to riders right now. I guarantee there's a rider that probably has already said, hey, I'm on board, right? And it'll be somebody of caliber. It'll be somebody of stature. It's not going to be, Johnny from Backwards, New York, that's going to get the ride. It's going to be somebody that we know of, and it's probably going to blow some people's minds, right? And it'll be pretty cool. It's nothing's more exciting in this sport than, this time of year, silly season, leading up to A1, and next year is going to be crazy because, they're going to have bike drops. You're going to have photo shoots. Triumph's going to be all over the place this time next year. And, of course, they're going to have 250 riders next year. So you're not going to see a Hunter Lawrence who's going to be 450, or sorry, you might. He might stay down another year. You don't know, but you're not going to see a Jet. You're probably going to see somebody that's going to be the Mosiman status, or maybe it's like Levi Kitchen. You never know. Levi's a hell of a rider. He's proven himself. He's a Northwest boy, so obviously very proud of Levi. But he's a guy that could be a contender. Going into 2023, Levi could be a kid if he can stay healthy. It could be running up front in Supercrosses and running up front in outdoor nationals. Well, that's what I got on the Triumph side. Let me know. Tell me I'm full of crap. I don't care. Down in the comments below, let me know what you think of Triumph. Let me know what you think is going to happen. Who do you think for 2024 are they going to bring in for their 250 team? Because I'm thinking a little bit more down the line to 2025, right? When they bring out the 450 guys. But who do you think they're going to bring in for the 2024 year in the 250 class. And put it down in the comments below. Let us know. We are going to take a quick, and I mean quick, commercial break, and we'll be right back. Viral Brand, Precision Optics Company. All right, so up next, we're going to talk about the 5 things that you need to do to get sponsored and stay sponsored. And these are something, every single year, and it doesn't happen all, but throughout the year, I get resumes from all over the world for Viral Brand. And we don't actually sponsor all that many guys. We turn a lot of them down. And the reason for that is just because, one, we don't have the resources, but 2, we want Viral to be a little more exclusive. We don't want it just to be everybody, and anybody can be sponsored by Viral Brand. You lose your value in the brand that way. And it doesn't make it special for you as a sponsored rider if everybody and their brother is wearing Viral Brand because they're getting it at 50% off, right? I mean, what's the deal, right? That doesn't really do it. A lot of brands do that. Maybe we're missing the boat, but if you ride for Viral Brand, it's because you were picked specifically to ride. And the resume is important, right? So let's talk a little bit. So the first thing is on your resume, you got to put down what you do, who you are, where you're racing, right? And why would we want to sponsor you? Because it's not just us giving away a discount. It's looking for a marketing partner. And you and your local shop and you and your local area and you as you go out to the track need to think of it that way. If you're going to be sponsored by somebody, it's not because you ride the motorcycle. Everybody rides a motorcycle. I mean, I can go out to a track and find 20 kids that ride motorcycles. I can find 500 kids that ride motorcycles on a local weekend. What you're going to do is what makes you different. Why would we want to sponsor you? And the first thing is you want it because you got some sort of social reach. So number one is good resume, and why should we sponsor you, right? That's the number one. Number 2 is to have a good social presence. You really need to have a good social presence. And when I say a social presence, my son, when he was coming up, was right at the start of social media, right? So he was racing. He started racing professionally, and I said to him, "Hey, buddy, if you're going to be a pro guy, you're a fast intermediate already. You have a lot of people already looking at you." And I said, "You can't be the typical 15-year-old kid that's just posting crap on your social media, right? Because if you do that, you got little kids that are watching, you got parents that are watching." You need to make this, if you're serious about your race career and you're trying to get real sponsors, and real sponsors are starting out with a discount. You're not going to get free stuff right out of the box, right? But starting out with a discount, working for your better discounts as they go forward, working into free product, working into being in ads, working into being a rider that a brand wants to actually get behind. There's a lot to that, right? But make sure that your social, you're putting up content that is really, really cool about what you do. If you're just putting out, dropping F-bombs every day and blowing up your motorcycle, there's a genre for that, right? But that's really not a racing genre. If you want to be that guy, then go out to the dunes, go blow up your stuff, go hit big jumps, and that is absolutely cool. And matter of fact, we might even sponsor you if you have enough followers for that. But if you're looking to be a race guy, right, then you want to be a little more PC. And I hate to say that because I don't like being PC, but in the race world, you need to be a little cleaner cut, right? And put out great content about racing and how you're doing. And then 3, never, ever talk bad about your sponsors. Ever. I don't care how bad the day goes. I don't care how bad the bike blew up. I don't care if the front wheel fell off. At the end of the day, you never talk bad about your sponsors because they really are your lifeblood in the world of racing motorcycles. And if you get a reputation of basically bad mouthing your sponsors don't give a shit how good you do, right? I know guys right now riding professionally that I would never sponsor, right? And the reason for it is because you can watch their social, you can watch how they interact with people. You can hear them through the pits, right? And when they talk smack about you, the product that you're providing to them, right? To other people, then it really, really denigrates their cash value, right? Because if it's just one of those things you just don't do. If you have an issue with a product, a helmet, riding gear, whatever it is, you take it back to the sponsor and you say, hey, because part of being sponsored is also product development, right? So it's really, really important. So let's go through the first three. Good resume, right? Talking about what you're going to do. 2 is having a really good social and a good social presence. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, right? 3 is don't ever talk bad about about the product that you're receiving. 4 is always be gracious to your fans and your friends and the people that are around you. Racing is always going to be tough. You're not going to win every moto. I don't care who you are, right? If you want to say, oh, well, Carmichael won everything. Well, hey, there's one guy like that. Everybody else in the world, right, for the most part, right, doesn't have that opportunity. And even Carmichael lost motos. I mean, it took him a while before he became the unbeatable Carmichael, right, on the Hondas and the Suzukis and that stuff. And there was years on his Kawasaki's when he was first coming up, he was getting 5th and 6th and 7th and 8th and crashing and putting holes in his legs and, I mean, riding over his head. And everybody gets beat. That's just the nature of the game. So remember to always, try to be as gracious. You can be mad. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a guy that likes to lose, and I get mad, but I keep it within myself. I don't lash out at my friends that are around me. I don't lash out at my parents. I don't lash out at fans that are walking by or other spectators. Now, in my old days of racing, I was fiery. And if you were a competitor of mine, well, I would have, there's times that I've gotten into a few things. But I try, not everybody, so I'm not perfect, right? Nobody's perfect, but I try to not do that. And that's what you should strive for. And then always promote your sponsor, right? At the end of the day, when you're doing your social, you're doing that stuff, talk good about them. Show the product on social media. I mean, you don't even understand how great it is for you as a sponsored rider to have social and your own program. Right? You literally have a TV show, which is your social pages, that is something that we never had when I was a kid. The only, we got our sponsors by our race results, which are important, by the magazines, Cycle News, and the articles that were written in Cycle News about us, and then the major magazines, Motocross Action, Dirt Bike Magazine, Super Motocross, which hasn't been around in a billion years. But those are all the things that's how you got yourself known. And then, of course, being at the local tracks and doing well at nationals and supercrosses. But those are the things that you need to do. So, again, 1 is a good resume. 2 is a good social. 3, never, ever talk bad about the product. 4 is always keep yourself contained and professional on and off the bike. And then 5 is promote your product. Always be promoting. And that's the top 5 keys that you need to get sponsored. We are going to take one more quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about today in viral brand news. All right, so we are back. So in motocross news, we are going to talk a little viral brand news. I should take that. We are excited because we have just made the cover of the 2023, January 2023 Motocross Action magazine, which is pretty awesome. And on top of that, we've got a bunch of other stuff coming out down the line here. We have you can see inside here. You'll be able to check out the let's see here if I can find this. If I can get this thing up there. There we go. So you're going to see the Mosiman on the gas 450 test. That is the same test that you're seeing on the cover of the magazine, and it's pretty cool. I mean, it's just pretty awesome to have the love from the magazines and to be able to have those guys using the product. You know, if they didn't like the product and it didn't work, they wouldn't use it. So it's really cool to have them on board. Let's talk a little bit about some of the stuff that I've been seeing on the internet. As we get closer to the Supercross series, the whining is already starting on Barcia. And, you know, I don't know if I touched on it last year at all. I probably didn't. But I really have a hard time with the way social media is when it comes to riders. You know, Justin's a good kid. Good dude. He's a good dude. Hell of a rider. Is he going to win Supercross main events? Hey, if all the chips fall right, yeah, absolutely. He can win any single week, any single weekend. If Tomac and Sexton and those guys and Roxon are on fire, then no, he probably isn't going to win, but he's going to be battling, right? He's about the exact same speed as Mookie, and he is a fighter. And, you know, and I'm not going to get into the whole Vince Freeze thing over in Europe. I don't know about that. If that's the case, there's no defense for trying to pay somebody to take out somebody. That's a bunch of crap. But as far as the hard racing part of it, that's what makes this sport so great, right? You know, when Barcia got into the side of Mookie down there at the last round or the second last round or whatever that was, and ejected him off his bike, I still blame Mookie for that. I do. Malcolm should have been smarter. And the reason I say that is because, and I've gotten a lot of backlash, and even some of my friends are like, oh, that's just a bunch of crap. Well, everybody who races knows who they race with. You get a feel for it, you know. Very rarely do you go to an event where you don't know who you're racing. When I raced at the Vet National, I really didn't know who I was racing. That's kind of a weird feeling, because when you race locally and you're racing in your class, whether you're a junior rider, a beginner rider, it doesn't matter. When you're racing in that class, you have a feeling for kind of who you're racing with. When you go to the Supercrosses, now your first year, yeah, you're not going to have a feel. But after that first year, you kind of know where you're at. When I raced Supercross in 89 especially, I knew where I was at. In 86, my first Supercross, I had no idea where I was at. I just got to start, put my head down, work my way into 10th place, and that's what I did. I didn't know who I was racing. I remember passing Ray Somo, which I thought was pretty cool because I knew who he was. I'd seen him in some of the magazines and heard about him. I knew who Craig Canoy was. I knew who Bader Manet was, but I didn't really know. I never really raced with those guys, so I didn't really know much about that, right? And so the first two nights were really just racing by myself, not knowing who I was racing against, making passes. The next weekend, or when I went to LA Coliseum, I had a little more feel for it, but even down there, I didn't have that much. But in 89, when I was racing the entire series, after the first couple rounds, I knew who I was racing with. I kind of knew where I was at speed-wise. I was about a 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th place guy. I kind of knew where I fit in, and then I knew the guys I was racing with. And so I knew the guys like this kid named Moody. Nice kid, but I mean, he and I, for whatever reason, seemed to always crash into each other on the track. So when I got around him, I would try to be a little smarter with him. I'd take an inside line or not leave it open. And back to my point with Malcolm. Malcolm should have known that. If he makes the pass on Barcia and he only got a couple corners, he's got to be protecting. Once he can look back over his shoulder and get a little, and I don't mean look back, but when the track turns back, you can see the guy behind you a little bit, right? And once you kind of catch a glimpse of him, you're going to have an idea of kind of where you're at. And then you can open up your lines, and especially if you're faster, then you can pull away. But in those first couple corners after passing somebody, man, you got to be careful. And I still think that Mookie's or Malcolm's, that was his mistake. He left the door open, and unfortunately for him, Barcia drove right through the center of him, right? He should never have gotten fined, disqualified, on any of that stuff. I think that to me is the biggest problem that we have with that whole deal. But, I saw a deal with Bogle, and Bogle was like, we all are sick of Barcia. man, how many races does Barcia race? I mean, mathematically, just take the emotion out of it. How many starts? How many heat races? How many motos? And you don't have any real problems with Barcia. Guys, I mean, there's guys you don't like riding with. They probably don't like riding with him, right? That's fine. But it's not a he needs to be banned for life. He needs to be out of the sport. He needs to have his livelihood taken away. I just don't think that is really the case. So as we move forward, going into the Supercross season, we're going to see. I mean, it'll be very interesting to see what happens as we move forward. Coming up next, we're going to take a quick look at the General Tire Arena Cross rounds number 6. And, at those rounds, we were looking at Mike Alessi. As you guys know, Mike Alessi is our rider. And here, both rounds in the 450 class, pro class, Mike got second overall. He went 2-2 in both motos. And then in the 250 class, the 250 pro class, let's go down here a little bit, 250 pro, he did exactly the same thing. Had a really solid weekend. I think he's running 3rd place in points right now. So Viral Brand is 3rd place. Viral Brand is on the podium at the rounds. He is running our Signature Series goggles. So he is one of the first athletes to actually get them and actually be using them and competing in them. And, no problems with fogging, no problems with sweat, no problems with the tear-offs, none of that stuff. So it's pretty awesome. The General Arena Cross is going to start airing on Fox Sports 1. And since you are one of our lucky viewers of our podcast, that commercial that we've been playing is going to be the commercial you're going to start seeing on Fox Sports 1. And that is this commercial. Let me go down to it right here. That is this commercial right here. So you'll get a chance to see that on Fox Sports 1 at the first few rounds of the arena crosses that will be airing here starting in January. So next up, we are going to talk about the face foam for the Viral Brand Signature Series Plus. This is a big feature for us. And so what we want to do is probably should not have grabbed yellow goggles. But that's what we're going to have to do. So the yellow or the face foam, which you can see here in red, is magnetic. This is a big deal. This is a game changer because this not only does this allow you to change face foams in between races, especially in arena cross. Let's say you go out Moto 1, you go out, you get sweaty, or you drop your goggles in the dirt, or you drop them in the mud. You could pop that face foam off, grab a clean set, put it back on. Now you're good to go. It's dry. It's ready to go. Let's say that you have a little bit smaller face. Pop this face foam off. You can get our 20 millimeter face foam, which is a little bit thicker. Pop it on. You're good to go. We run foam on the edges here to keep dirt out of the goggle itself. Our magnets lock that in place. Then it's pushed against your face like this, and that gives it a good seal all the way around your face. We still run our very heavy curve in our goggle to give that very, very tight feel to your face without pressing on your nose too much and giving you a hard time to breathe, but yet still sealing well enough that dirt doesn't get into your goggle. Pair that with our quick change strap and our Precision Optics lens, and you have one of the best goggles in the industry. If you want to find out more about Viral Brand, go to viralbrandmx.com and check out the new Signature Series goggles. If you're interested in getting some of our Work Series goggles, that's our generation before this one. These will not be out till mid-January, but Work Series goggles run the same lens technology, same frame design as far as the curve, same face foam, it's just glued in. And that goggle is available right now at viralbrandmx.com. And if you've turned in your resume and you've gotten sponsored, use your discount code and get yourself goggles set up right away. Coming up next, we're going to talk real quickly about the Dream 360, Motocross Dream 360, which is, where did it go? Here we go. So the Motocross Dream 360 is the fantasy motocross league that Denny Stevenson runs, has been for quite a few years. Love that his league. I think it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of different leagues out there. You can join a bunch of different leagues. That's the beauty of doing it. But I will tell you this, the camaraderie through his Facebook page, the way that he lays it out is just a lot of fun. And I really enjoy it. Rules are pretty simple. 1 8-rider team, 450. You get 4 450 riders. You get 4 250 riders. All 8 riders must fit within the $3.5 million salary cap. And the way that it breaks down is each rider is rated, and they're rated based on their finishing positions from the season before for round 1, then from every subsequent finishing positions throughout the year. And I will say this, and it's a huge shout out to Denny. My son decided to go race this year, and Denny put him on the list for Paula and for Hangtown, which I thought was absolutely killer. I mean, my son, as much as I love him, he hadn't raced in 7 years. The chances of him making the show was pretty low, but I had him on my fantasy league, so I had him both weekends too, which I didn't do well both those weekends because he didn't make the show. But you know what? It was cooler than shit just to have him on my team. So I thought that was really cool. But anyway, so each time you got all these different riders that are there. The salaries will change at each round. Their weekly results will help determine their salary, and then and you cannot hire for the next week. You cannot hire the same riders. So on like a fantasy football team, you hire your team, and then that's your team all year. With this, you're changing your team every single week. You got to pick riders to actually have those come out, or to have your team, and it's difficult. I mean, and that's part of it, which is fun. I mean, difficult is why we do these things, right? Points are earned 25 for 1, 22 for 2nd, 20 for 3rd, then 18, and then 16, 15, 14, all the way down to 1 point for 20th place. 21, 22 also get 1 point each as well. It is pretty fun if you like to smack talk, and it brings another element to watching the races, because now you're watching guys that aren't the top 3. So the way that I watch Supercross now is pretty funny, and that's actually kind of how I watched Supercross when I was managing a team, is I would watch the race from the tower, but I'd also be watching it on my phone so I could see my lap times. I'd look up and see my riders, but I'd look at the lap times of my riders. And then I'd watch a couple of guys in the front, but I mostly watched my guys. Well, with fantasy, it's kind of the same thing. You are watching your riders. And I think that is absolutely cooler. I think that's absolutely cool. So if you haven't had a chance, head over to MotoXDream360.com, get registered. It's nominal. It's like $25 for the year. It doesn't cost barely anything. Get yourself set up. Get ready for Anaheim 1, because it's going to be a blast and it's going to be chaotic. And then on top of that, Viral Brand's going to be running a series, a contest. And if you guys watched last episode, I had a hard time getting this out. But the contest rules will be up on our website here in about a week. I will, in our next podcast, I'll actually point them out. But the contest rules are pretty simple. We're going to be giving away free goggles and sunglasses at each round of the Supercross season this year. And the way that you're going to win is by picking the top 3 in the 250 class and the top 3 in the 450 class, but they have to be in order. So you can't just say, hey, the top 3 are going to be, Sexton, Tomac, and Barcia, right? It's got to be Sexton 1, Barcia 2, Tomac 3. And then you got to do the same thing in the 250 class, right? And you got to know what side, you got to basically have, what side of the coast we're running, and who's racing that weekend. But if you get all 6 correct, that's you got to have 6 correct, then you can win a pair of goggles. If you don't win, those goggles roll over to the next week, and you could win 2 goggles the weekend after. And then after that, they roll over again. And then you could win 3 goggles. And then it's roll over to 4 goggles and 5 goggles. And then we do a reset halfway through the season and we start again. So if nobody wins, I typically pick a winner randomly out of the people that have signed up, and I'll send them a set of goggles, and it's a random drawing. We'll do that here on Viral Nation. But we'll have the rules of that up next week on our website, and we will talk about it next week on the Viral Nation. With that being said, I know that for some reason we're being a little glitchy today, so I apologize. I don't know how bad this is actually been, but I do want to say thank you for joining us here on the Viral Nation, episode number 24. Don't forget to subscribe. I want to thank Motocross Action, obviously, for their being on the cover. We want to thank my daughter's band, Always Naked, and they do our intro and outro music and are just awesome. They are going to be opening on Tuesday night again for the Kraken. So if you're an NHL person, you like that, they are actually the house band for the Kraken, have been for 3 or 4 of their events this year. So we're excited that you stopped by. We're excited that you hung out. If you watched all the way to the end, thank you. Until next week, same bat time, same bat station. I'm Scott Steffi, and this is the Viral Nation. And we will see you. Let me put it right here. We will see you next week.
Wake up at 5 a.m. Gotta be at the track at 10. It's time to ride. All of this anticipation to ride in the Viral Nation.